Oof, this was tough to watch. Japan's new Prime Minister Takaishi had to help Donald Trump walk in the correct direction when he went to visit her. I'm going to show you that video in just a moment, but his health appears to be deteriorating rapidly before our very eyes. On the plane ride to Japan, he was asked if he got an MRI back on October 10th when he went to Walter Reed. Remember when we predicted that that was the reason he was going? Then we looked at the medical records and it talked about advanced imaging. And remember, I said, I think that means he got an MRI. And it seems that the use of serial MRIs or multiple MRIs are used to monitor the progression of Alzheimer's or a stroke. Sarah McGee pointed that out as well. Multiple MRIs taking place. Congresswoman AOC even says, hello, Mr. President. Out of curiosity, did these doctors that you speak of ask you to draw a clock by any chance? Was that part hard for you too? Asking for 340 million people. Then George Conway wrote, sir, no one has ever produced an MRI like yours, sir. It's the perfect MRI. We are in awe of your hydrogen nuclei, sir. Your protons spin and resonate like nothing we've ever seen before, sir. Watch what happens in Japan. Here, play this clip. You'll recall that when Trump's doctor produced a medical report from the last visit a month or so ago when he visited Walter Reed, it mentioned advanced imaging. And we really focused on that line. And I said, I think that means he got an MRI. And there had been many people speculating if he's been having mini strokes and if that's why his speech is so all over the place and incoherent and how he can't complete sentences or remember basic facts. And indeed, Donald Trump admitted that this advanced imaging was an MRI. Now, you'll recall last week, Trump's propagandist Caroline Leavitt was asked about the advanced imaging. And she said, advanced imaging is something that presidents receive and people receive when they go to the doctor. And she did not admit it was an MRI. Let me just show you what Caroline Leavitt said last week. You'll recall when she was asked this question by the press. Let's play it.
Any more details on the president's Walter Reed visit? The readout from his doctor mentioned advanced imaging. What procedure was he referring to?
Advanced imaging is something that presidents receive and people receive when they go to the doctor. And so we provide a detailed readout of that physical. And I would encourage you back to that. Presidents and I don't know the exact imaging that took place, but as the physician's note said, the president is in incredibly good shape, and I think that's evidenced here every single day.
Now, just to remind you, here was the medical report from October 10th, 2025, and it talked about the advanced imaging being taken. This is from the airplane where Donald Trump admitted that, yes, he got an MRI, and he said it was a perfect MRI. Here, play this clip.
Readout from Walter Reed mentioned advanced medical imaging. Did you get an MRI? Can you tell us what that was?
I did. I got an MRI. It was perfect. Yeah. I mean, I gave you the full results. We had an MRI, and in the machine, the whole thing, yeah. And it was perfect. Yeah.
Did you say one in particular?
You could ask the doctors. In fact, we have doctors traveling with us, but I think they gave you a very conclusive. Nobody has ever given you reports like I gave you. And if I didn't think it was going to be good, either I would let you know negatively, I wouldn't run, I'd do something. But the doctor said some of the best reports for the age, some of the best reports they've ever seen.
And then Donald Trump goes and talks about how he took another cognitive exam at this visit from October 10th, 2025. And I'm going to show you that he also claimed that he took a cognitive exam back in April. So who takes cognitive exams essentially every 6 months? That's very odd. It's very odd behavior. This is what he said, though, about the most recent cognitive exam. Play this clip.
They have Jasmine Crockett, a low IQ person. They have AOC's low IQ. You give her an IQ test, have her pass like the exams that I decided to take when I was at Walter Reed. Those are very hard, they're really aptitude tests, I guess, in a certain way, but they're cognitive tests. Let AOC go against Trump. Let Jasmine go against Trump. I don't think Jasmine, the first couple of questions are easy. A tiger, an elephant, a giraffe, you know. When you get up to about 5 or 6, and then when you get up to 10 and 20 and 25, they couldn't come close to answering any of those questions.
And I'll just show you what the Montreal Cognitive Assessment looks like. You see here where it talks about the visuospatial portion of the exam, where you have to go 1A, 2B, 3C, etc. And then there's the naming of the animals right there, and you have to name the animals: a duck, a tiger, and a horse. These are the types of questions that he says were extremely difficult. Just to remind you, in advance of Donald Trump's October 10th visit to Walter Reed, you had Ronnie Jackson, who was Donald Trump's previous doctor. He claimed that Walter Reed visit was going to be dealing with Donald Trump's vascular issues. Vascular, he said, which is the chronic venous insufficiency, the cardiovascular issues. But apparently Ronnie Jackson wasn't read on into what he was actually supposed to say. So this is what Ronnie Jackson said. Play this clip.
They took him up there. They were just doing some stuff. They were doing some venous, some follow-up on his venous issue. You know, he had been diagnosed with chronic venous insufficiency. So there was a vascular study that was done. They were just looking at follow-up that was recommended last time he had the annual physical done. That follow-up was being done. He got his vaccines for that he's due right now, especially with some of his upcoming travel. So he got all of his travel vaccines updated.
Now contrast that to what Donald Trump said the day before. Ronnie Jackson said that on October 10th when Trump had that visit to Walter Reed. When Donald Trump was asked about going to Walter Reed tomorrow, Donald Trump said that he said it's a semi-annual physical, and that was different from what Caroline Levitt first said. She first said it was going to be his physical. Then we and others in the media pointed out he said he had his physical back in April, so he's doing 2 physicals like within 6 months of each other. And so here Donald Trump says it's sort of a semi-annual physical. What does that mean? It's sort of a semi-annual physical. It's a strange phrasing. But this is where he says at the prior one, I did a cognitive exam. So he's saying he did one in April, and now we're learning he did one on October 10th. Here, play this clip.
You're going to Walter Reed tomorrow? What are you having done? How are you feeling?
I'm meeting with the troops, and I'm also going to do a sort of semi-annual physical, which I do. And I think I'm in great shape, but I'll let you know. But I have no difficulty thus far. Is there wood around here? Knock on. No difficulty. Physically, I feel very good. Mentally, I feel very good. You know, I did about 6-7 months ago. I do physicals. I like to, when I'm around, I like to check always early, always be early. It's a lesson for a lot of people. But I also did a cognitive exam, which is always very risky because if I didn't do well, you'd be the first to be blaring it. And I had a perfect score. And one of the doctors said he's almost never seen a perfect score. I had a perfect score. I got the highest score. And that made me feel good. When they asked, would I like to do one? I said, yeah. I said, did Obama do it? No. Did Bush do it? No. Did Biden do it? I definitely did. Biden wouldn't have gotten the first 3 questions right. No, Biden didn't do it. Biden should have done it. I'm actually a person that believes that if you're president, you should do a cognitive exam. But the last time I took a cognitive exam, and it was a perfect score. The doctors announced it. And by the way, not the easiest test. The first few questions are pretty easy. Once you get into the middle, it gets a little trickier. And there aren't a lot of people in this room that would get every single question right, I can guarantee
You're putting me in a difficult spot now.
So when you watch the Trump administration's actions in regards to the climate, doesn't it feel like these people are like working for the oil and coal companies? Well, I've got some news for you. I wanted to take a minute to share this data with you because it kind of explains everything. More than 40 members of Trump's administration have direct ties to oil, gas, or coal companies. Let that sink in for a second. 40 people who once worked for or represented fossil fuel giants are now writing America's energy and climate policy. A new analysis from Public Citizen and the Revolving Door Project exposes just how deep this capture runs. Across the White House, the EPA, and the Departments of Energy and Interior, the report found 111 fossil fuel insiders and renewable energy opponents. 43 of them previously drew paychecks from the very industries they're now supposed to regulate. Energy Secretary Chris Wright used to run a fracking company. The head of the Department of Energy's Renewable Office, the one that told employees not to use the words climate change, is a former fracking executive. Even senior White House policy advisors come straight from oil giants like Shell. And it doesn't stop there. The Interior Department alone counts 32 officials with fossil fuel ties, including Secretary Doug Burgum, who personally profits from oil leases to Continental Resources, a company run by one of Trump's biggest donors. This is not a government serving the American people. It is an oil and gas boardroom with taxpayer-funded nameplates. These officials aren't just making policy either. They are dismantling decades of environmental protections while cashing in for their industry allies. And that big Trump GOP bill that opened public lands to drilling and mining, it also gutted renewable energy incentives and launched an all-out war on climate science itself. And while the planet burns, fossil fuel donors poured nearly $100 million into Trump's campaign. You see what's happening here? Experts say it's the most compromised energy apparatus in modern American history, and the administration is not even pretending to hide it. As one researcher put it, quote, "There is no shame, they are proud of it." The fossil fuel industry hasn't just lobbied this White House, it is this White House. We need to stay loud about these issues, so let's make some noise. Let me know what you think about this in the comments right now. Ben, back to you.
You take a look at the report from Donald Trump's previous visit to Walter Reed from April 13th, 2025. There were so many red flags there. I mean, the first is where it says that he weighs 224 pounds, which is ridiculous. And then it says that the summary of his health, it goes, he's in excellent health as evidenced by frequent victories in golf events. Frequent victories in golf events. First off, we know he cheats when he plays golf, and that's not evidence of good health, even if it was accurate. That's not something that belongs in medical reports. And then you'll remember when in July, Caroline Leavitt, Donald Trump's propagandist, talked about how he was diagnosed with chronic venous insufficiency, but she said that was due to shaking lots of hands and working so hard, which is not what it's based on. Here, play this clip.
Many in the media have been speculating about bruising on the president's hand and also swelling in the president's legs. So in the effort of transparency, the president wanted me to share a note from his physician with all of you today. In recent weeks, President Trump noted mild swelling in his lower legs. In keeping with routine medical care and out of an abundance of caution, this concern was thoroughly evaluated by the White House medical unit. The president underwent a comprehensive examination, including diagnostic vascular studies. Bilateral lower extremity venous Doppler ultrasounds were performed and revealed chronic venous insufficiency, a benign and common condition, particularly in individuals over the age of 70. Importantly, there was no evidence of deep vein thrombosis or arterial disease. Laboratory testing included a complete blood count, comprehensive metabolic panel, coagulation profile, D-dimer, B-type natriuretic peptide, and cardiac biomarkers. All results were within normal limits. An echocardiogram was also performed and confirmed normal cardiac structure and function. No signs of heart failure, renal impairment, or systemic illness were identified. Additionally, recent photos of the president have shown minor bruising on the back of his hand. This is consistent with minor soft tissue irritation from frequent handshaking and the use of aspirin, which is taken as part of a standard cardiovascular prevention regimen. This is a well-known and benign side effect of aspirin therapy. And the president remains in excellent health, which I think all of you witness on a daily basis here. So the president wanted me to share that note with all of you. I'm happy to take further questions on it.
Now, if you take a look at Donald Trump's behavior of late, and even over the past several years, I think you know that it's deteriorating and getting worse. You'll recall, for example, a few weeks back when Donald Trump was talking about going after cartels. He said, somebody came up with this word cartel. What a word. He goes, I'm not going to tell you who came up with this word. Again, that's a really weird thing to say. I'm not going to tell you who came up with the word cartel. And that's where he was kind of clinging on to that when talking about cartels. Here, play this clip.
We have cartels that, somebody came up with the word cartel. I won't tell you who that person was, but you got a lot of bad people in the cartels.
Then there was this other moment where Donald Trump started talking about bringing in, hundreds of millions of dollars, he claims, in privately funded money, $130 million, which would fund about 6 hours of payroll for the military. I'm not sure why we have private people funding 6 hours of the military, unless it's really going to be used to paying other things. Not that. But you'll even notice like Pam Bondi and Kristi Noem and Pete Hegseth, the way they look at Donald Trump like they know something is wrong with him. Just watch their face. Play this clip.
He doesn't really want the recognition, if you want to know the truth. But he gave us a check for $130 million.
And that's going to go to
which was sort of a shortfall, yeah. And it's going to go to the military, yeah.
And what's your message?
Is that the correct number? $130 million. That's what I call a patriot. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
And then there's, of course, Donald Trump roaming his country clubs, roaming Mar-a-Lago and other clubs that he owns, and like crashing people's weddings. And so while we're in a government shutdown, he's spending his time like showing up at random people's weddings at his clubs, which is just very odd. He's posting AI videos of himself dropping diarrhea on American people, on peaceful protesters. You have, behavior like that. Here's Donald Trump, by the way, talking about one of the other things that he's obsessed about, the ark. He's like, we're now building a triumphal ark. I think he means an arch, but he goes, we're building a ark, like Noah's Ark. Like, what do you mean you're building an ark? Here, play this clip.
Well, it could even be more than that. Probably, possibly, assuming we can do that, we're building the ark, and maybe we use it for the ark. Looks like we might. We're going to be building the ark, and we've raised a lot of money for the ballroom, so maybe we'll put the ark is going to be incredible for Washington, D.C. So maybe we use it for the ark.
Now, lots of doctors have speculated that what we're seeing is the signs of mini strokes, and that Trump's speech patterns look like someone who had a mini stroke. For example, here is Dr. Shiner talking about Trump's speech patterns. This was from actually after Trump's visit in 2019, where he made a kind of an emergency appearance at Walter Reed, and nobody really knew why he showed up there. Here, play this clip.
His inability to say words sometimes worries me tremendously. He is having trouble word finding when he said United States instead of United States. These aren't words. These aren't slips of the tongue. These are words he can't find them. And this is happening over and over again. Comedians joke about it, but it's not a joking matter. I think there is a neurological issue that is not being addressed. And if he had an MRI of his head over there, I would be very pleased because I think he needs it.
Is that something that could have happened in the 2-hour time he was there?
Yes, it certainly could. And it's the worry that I have is that maybe he's having small strokes. And, we had that once before in the White House when Woodrow Wilson was president. His inability to find words is peculiar and has not been explained. And I think one has to think of it as a possible neurological issue.
And then recently on the Daily Beast podcast, they analyzed Trump's cognitive collapse, according to top psychologists over here. I'll show you this interview right here. Here, play this clip.
Trump, because of his cognitive decline, is focusing on things like the ballroom and the paper that he writes things on. If any of you have ever had someone who in your family or friends who had dementia, one of the things you'll notice is they'll pick up on one concrete physical detail, and then they'll free associate to that detail, completely leaving the conversation, whatever whatever the original topic of the conversation was. Let's set the stage. He's brought 1,200 generals from around the world, right? For this very important meeting. And you have to forgive me, I automatically go into my Trump voice when I do this. When I have a general and I have to sign for a general because we have beautiful paper, gorgeous paper, I said, put a little more gold on it. They deserve it. I want the A paper, not the D paper. We used to sign that piece of garbage. I said, this guy's going to be a general, right? I want to use the big, beautiful, firm paper. I want to use the real gold writing. After all the work you do to become a general or an admiral, your commission, that commission is beautifully displayed, and I sign it. I actually love my signature. Everybody loves my signature, but I sign it very proudly. And I think to myself, how can you have an auto pen do this? So disrespectful to me. It's totally disrespectful. As it turns out, almost everything he did was by auto pen, except when he gave his son Hunter a pardon, he signed that one. Actually, it's the worst signature I've ever seen. The auto pen looks better. It's right there in plain sight. We're all seeing it, but no one's calling it. It's like the emperor has no brain, but the media is afraid to say it. The professionals are afraid to say it.
Well, you can judge for yourself and let me know what you think, but I wanted to show you all of the data points. Anyway, hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million, and thanks for watching.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.